Today, I got Vlad here, and we are going to each choose 5 MLB players, MLB stars of the 2010s. These can be all-stars, guys who got MVP votes, Cy Young votes, and we are going to see if you guys remember. So comment below if you remember any of these people or any MLB stars that you forget. Sometimes in sports, especially in baseball, we forget players that shocked the world, that were great, because baseball is a sport where a lot of people unfortunately have 1 or 2 good years and then fall off the face of the earth. So, Vlad, we're going to go to you first. Who is your first player that you want to shout out or recognize?
So my first player, I wouldn't really call him a star. He had one really good season. It's Brian LaHare from the Cubs. He actually only played for 3 seasons, which is
Wow.
I didn't realize that until I looked at his baseball reference page. But he only played 3 seasons. His last season in the league, though, he was an all-star. He had a near 800 OPS, 16 home runs. So very solid season, but definitely a very forgettable guy, and times where the Cubs were just like not good at all. So yeah, he's also, fun fact, he's also the current manager of the Louisville Bats, the Reds AAA.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. Yeah. Shout out to Brian. That's a guy who I really forgot existed. So comment below if you know Brian. So one player I got, this guy, maybe not as good as some of the other players on the list, but I mean, some of his stats are just very, very impressive. My guy is 2-time All-Star Mark Trumbo. Trumbo won a Silver Slugger in 2016, where he hit 47 home runs, slugging a 553. In 2012, he hit 35 home runs as well, and then 34 the year after. Kind of fell off a cliff a little bit, and then in 2016, hit 47 home runs. So this was a guy who was pretty much purely a power bat. He provided almost nothing in the field when he played outfield and first base, kind of strictly a designated hitter type guy, but very good player who hit a lot of home runs. And I feel as if home run players kind of take the league by storm. They're very exciting to watch. And then sometimes the power either falls off or fails you a little bit. And Trumbo didn't have a lot of hitting skills other than home runs. For example, it looks like close to a fourth of his hits were home runs, so 25%. So that's my first guy, Mark Trumbo, Angels and Orioles legend.
Yeah.
Second player?
Second guy is my only reliever. But so this guy started as a starter, like most pitchers do, and then converted to the bullpen. In his first year in the bullpen, he was an all-star.
Wow.
This is Brett Cecil.
Brett Cecil. Wow.
Very like short lefty. Maybe not short. He's 6'2". I guess it felt like he was a little shorter than that. But lefty, spent almost his entire career with the Blue Jays. Played for the Cardinals a little bit in his twilight days. But his first year as a reliever, like I said, all-star game appearance, through 60 innings, 2.8 ERA, 147 ERA plus, 2.88 FIP, like really good reliever stuff.
Yeah.
From what I remember, he didn't really overpower you or anything like that. He just kind of had some good stuff. But this one's definitely an easy one to forget about, given that he only made 1 all-star game, because I feel like
for sure.
I feel like a lot of relievers do that, and then they just become very average or below average or whatever. So, yeah, Brett Cecil is number 2.
That's a great shout right there. Brett Cecil, definitely a forgotten guy in the MLB. I'm going to go with another pitcher, probably not as obscure as Brett Cecil, but definitely had a little bit of a higher peak. And some real baseball fans might remember this, but if you ask anybody on the street who kind of sort of watches baseball, or even some fans who pay attention to the game a lot now, this name might go under the radar, and that is Cy Young, R.A. Dickey. He won the Cy Young in 2012, which I completely forgot about. That was his only all-star year as well, and it's crazy to have your first all-star and be a season where you receive MVP votes and Cy Young votes as well. First of all, this guy was just an innings, just an innings eater, really. 233 innings pitched. Only a 2.75 ERA. That's a 139 ERA plus and a FIP of 3.27. This guy, it's crazy to see a knuckleballer win the MVP, especially because knuckleballers are pretty extinct now. But yeah, and that was only his second year on the New York Mets. On a New York Mets team that really wasn't that good, did not make the playoffs, but he was a bright spot for them, winning the Cy Young, and he'll go down in history, despite, maybe not a great career overall. Cy Young's a Cy Young, so R.A. Dickey.
Yeah, for my third one, this is one of the more interesting stories, but Wilson Ramos. So he ended up playing for over a decade in the league. Two-time All-Star with Washington in 2016, and then he split time between Tampa and Philly in 2018. That was his second All-Star appearance. But 2016, 121 OPS, 850 or OPS plus, 850 OPS, and then 2018, 845 OPS, 130 OPS plus, and almost both of them were 3 WAR seasons. So very good stuff. Side note for Ramos, there was a chance where he didn't even get a chance to play these years because he was kidnapped in 2011.
Wow.
He was kidnapped and
holy smokes,
obviously was located and rescued after, I forget if it was a couple of days or however long it was, but yeah, he was kidnapped. And I remember hearing about it as a kid, like, oh my gosh, like
what the heck?
Insane. So yeah, it was only his second year in the league. He'd been kidnapped, and then that next year came around, posted a 2.5 WAR, and had actually a pretty solid season. So kudos to Wilson for power through a very crazy situation, obviously.
That's definitely a scary situation. Thanks for that anecdote, Vlad. I mean, that's one that's I didn't even know that. That's crazy. Next up, I'm gonna go to a guy whose career really kind of was a downfall after he got his contract, but in his prime, this man was great. It was legend of the 2010s, Jacoby Ellsbury. In 2011, he was second in the MVP voting, All-Star, won a Gold Glove, and the one thing that mainly stands out about this man was just his stolen bases. There was a time there where he was averaging like 50 to 60 stolen bases a season for those Red Sox teams. And in 2011, I mean, he started hitting too. He went from a 485 OPS the previous season to a 928 OPS. He really just turned it around, and then went down a little bit in the next season, and then 2013 he followed it up with a 6 WAR season, and that's what got him his big contract from their rival Yankees. And he consistently didn't really do anything after his time with the Red Sox, but Jacoby Ellsbury, a great center fielder who played on some of those Red Sox playoff teams in the 2010s.
Yeah, back when he had a card in MLB The Show, I was a very big fan of Jacoby.
Yes.
But that is no more.
Yes.
Next one, hometown shout here. I would say this is one of the bigger what ifs with the Reds in the 2010s, but Devin Mesoraco.
Okay.
Obviously, his career was derailed by injuries, but 2014 was outside of Joey Votto and Jay Bruce and Ellie De La Cruz now. This is one of the best seasons from a Reds hitter in the 2000s period.
Sure. Yeah.
2014, he was an all-star, had a 5-win season, 273 average, almost a 900 OPS, 147 OPS plus.
Wow.
Actually got MVP votes too. He finished like
Jeez.
20. But yeah, he got MVP votes. If I'm a catcher, I mean, 5-win season, 25 home runs. I mean, that's really good. Like I said, his career
Absolutely.
fell off from injuries. He didn't have a single positive WAR season again until 2017, and it was 0.2. And then 2018, which ended up being his last season in the league, he was traded to the Mets for Matt Harvey.
Wow. What a career for Mesoraco. I remember kind of the Mesoraco mania and his quick rise and fall as a Red. But a 900 OPS plus for a catcher is really great. This is a player. My fourth player on the list is someone that real baseball fans certainly remember. He was a 5-time All-Star, made 4 straight All-Star appearances in a row, and was kind of close to the face of baseball, I would say, for a little bit. Consistent MVP votes, Gold Gloves, 4 of them. Was a great hitter, was a 5-WAR guy for almost 4 years straight, then kind of fell off a cliff a little bit, and we haven't heard it from him since 2019. That's Adam Jones, outfielder for the Orioles. Yeah, a couple of Orioles players on the list today. Adam Jones was amazing. I remember watching his athleticism combined with his hitting that improved every year. He was never an incredible blow the doors off hitter, but was consistently above 110 OPS plus. Was great at almost a 30 home run guy, would steal some bases, RBIs, but his play in the field was really spectacular. I mean, the home run saving catches that he made in the outfield and center field was definitely a premier center fielder of the 2010s. So hope everybody remembers Adam Jones.
Yeah, I definitely remember him from robbing Manny Machado in the World Baseball Classic
Yes.
in San Diego. It's pretty electric.
And that is electric.
So for my last one, this isn't necessarily a star. They did make an all-star team, which is pretty impressive considering that he was relatively average to below average his entire career. This is Eduardo Nunez.
Wow. Okay.
Yankee for his first 4 years in the league, then came over to Minnesota. Was with the Twins when they weren't very good. He was there. I want to say he was their like lone all-star that year. I could be wrong. We made the all-star team for them in 2016. Had a 764 OPS, so slightly above average. Nothing crazy. And then he was traded to the Giants at the deadline. Put up pretty similar numbers with the Giants as well. And then was dealt to the Red Sox in 2017 and ended up playing 3 seasons for them. He was very good when he first got traded over there, but his next 2 years were very underwhelming, talking like 500 OPS. And then he ended up with the Mets for a very, very brief cup of coffee in 2020, and that was it. But the guy that kind of just all over the place, more of a utility bench guy than anything, and then all of a sudden kind of came out of nowhere and was a bright spot on a really bad Twins team. I want to say 2016 they were the worst team in the league because they took Royce Lewis the next year in 2017 with the first pick. So definitely a bright spot on a very bad team.
Yeah. Eduardo Nunez, great shout there. Shout out if you remember him, because I didn't even remember him, to be honest with you. And that's definitely a player that fits this topic, players that we forgot about. The last player on my list is a shout out to the NL Central during the early 2010s. It was one of my brother and I's favorite player to watch, even though he was on a rival team. And that was Starlin Castro of the Chicago Cubs, a guy who ended up getting MVP votes in his second year in the league. 4-time All-Star. He made it once with the Yankees in 2017. Kind of a high average guy. Didn't do much in the OPS plus department, but he was just kind of a guy who got a lot of hits and was a bright spot on those Cubs teams in the early 2000s that were very bad. Unfortunately, he left the team the year they won the World Series, so that kind of stinks for him. But a guy who accumulated a decent amount of WAR, played almost every single game at shortstop, and overall, just a guy who was really good, just a really, really good, solid player of the 2010s. Unfortunately, only played in the playoffs one time and didn't do too much there, but really good regular season player, Starlin Castro.
Yeah, he ended up being the headliner in the Giancarlo Stanton deal that sent him to New York.
Good memory there. Good memory
so
there.
I obviously, at least executives thought that he had more potential or thought of him highly. So there's that. And then another personal thing is when he was with the Cubs, he gave me one of his batting gloves.
No way.
So
That's really special. Was this at Great American or at Wrigley?
Yeah, it was at Great American. It was probably 8 to 10 years ago, but yeah, I have a Starlin Castro singular batting glove.
Well, good for Starlin Castro. Thanks for being a nice guy to our friend. And yeah, comment below any other players. We might do this version again sometime with another, because there are a lot of forgotten players of the 2010s. So yeah, we might do it again. Make sure to subscribe to what we do. Vlad here is one of the best MLB minds in sports media. And if you're asking me, probably a little better than people who actually do this for a living. But alas, he won't admit that because he's very humble. But subscribe to support what we're doing here. I appreciate your views.